Main burden of providing money for East India Company, whether for profits or for the wars of expansion, fell on the option A, small zamindars, B, puppet rulers, C, peasants, D, native merchants. Answer is option C, peasants. For the trade of profits of the company, the cost of administration in India, wars of British expansion, these all expenses had been forced to bear only by the peasants or mainly by the peasants. Hence the answer is C. Next, first textile mill was started in option A, Risra, option B, Bombay, option C, Murshidabad, option D, Bihar, option E, none of the above. Answer is option B, Bombay. This was also discussed in our previous video, economic impacts of British rule. In 19th century witnessed the large scale development of modern industry. First textile industry started in Bombay in 1853 and cotton mills in 1803. Hence the answer is option B, Bombay. East India Company began to purchase Indian goods out of the revenue of Bengal and to export them to England, which is called A, investment, B, dividends, C, stocks, D, none of these. Answer is option A, investment. In 1765, company acquired the Diwani of Bengal and began purchase of Indian goods out of the revenue of Bengal and exported them to England. These exports were called company's investment. Hence the answer is A. Ruin of artisan and craftsman resulted to. Option A, quick collapse of artifacts industry. Option B, adversely affected cotton weaving, spinning and iron industry. High import duties imposed on Indian goods. All of the above. Answer is all of the above. All options are the result of ruin of artisan and craftsman, which we have already discussed in our previous video, economic impacts of British rule. Why was economic drain peculiar to British rule? Option A, Britain had the maximum number of colonies in the world. Option B, India got no adequate economic return for wealth and resource it exported to Britain. Option C, most Indian governments spent revenue extracted from the people inside the country. Option D, both B and C. Answer is option B. India became the agricultural colony of manufactured British commodities, especially for raw materials. They considered Indian farmers as slaves. British exported agricultural raw material as a part of India's wealth and resources, which got no adequate economic return. Hence the right answer is B. Indian exports to foreign countries fell rapidly due to A, prohibitive import duties, B, both A and C, C, acute shortage of raw materials in India. We can completely eliminate option C, acute shortage of raw material, because during that time India had ample amount of raw materials. These raw materials mainly used in Britain for their manufactured goods. During that time India became agricultural colony of British manufactured goods. British imports were given more preferences under imperial preferences. More import duties imposed in Britain on Indian goods to discourage Indian exports. A prohibitive tariff discouraged Indian exports. These prohibited tariffs may extend up to 500% on Indian goods. Hence, Britain completely wishes Indian goods keep it out. Hence, the correct answer is option A. Next question. Dadabhai Naoroji first put forward his theory of drain of wealth in his book. Option A, poverty and un-British rule in India. Option B, England's debits to India, option C on the commerce of India, and option D the wants and means of India. The right answer is option A, poverty and un-British rule in India. Dadabhai Naoroji put forward the drain of wealth theory, which he stated that Britain was completely draining India. Dadabhai Naoroji published Poverty and Un-British Rule in India in 1901, brought attention to the draining of India's wealth to Britain. He is also known as the Grand Old Man of India and the unofficial ambassador of India. The book England Debits to India, written by Lala Lajpat Rai, a famous freedom fighter. The other books on the commerce of India, the wants and means of India, also written by Dadabhai Naoroji. The first jute mill was started in which of the following places in India? A. Kolkata, B. Risra, C. Madras, D. Mumbai. This was also discussed in our previous video, Economic Impacts of British Rule. The first jute mill was started in 1853 in Risra, Bengal. In 1882, there were 20 jute mills, many of them in Bengal. The right answer is Risra, Bengal. Where was the first iron and steel industry in India established? Option A, Bhilai. Option B, Chhattisgarh. Option C, Jamshedpur. Option D, Kolkata. The correct answer is option C, Jamshedpur. The first iron and steel plant was set up in India at Jamshedpur. Tata Iron and Steel Company Limited, TISCO, located in Jamshedpur, Jharkhand. Started in 1912 on the banks of Subarnarekha River. The industry played major role in the production of equipments in First World War also. Which of the following is not a direct economic impact of British colonial rule in India? A. Resulted impoverishment of peasantry. B. Regional economic disparity destroyed the level of national integration and the creation of industrial capitalist and modern working class. C. Poverty and famine ravaged in all parts of the country. These all impacts we clearly explained in our previous video, Economic Impacts of British Rule. In the first statement is absolutely true, and the direct impact of economic impact of British rule, it resulted the impoverishment of peasantry. Actually, peasants failed to pay their land revenue. The government put up their land for sale to collect the arrears of land revenue. During that time, peasants are considered as slaves. Hence, the first statement is absolutely correct. And economic disparity, regional economic disparity is also the direct impact of British rule, and the creation of industrial capitalist and modern working class. Option C, poverty and famine ravaged in all parts of the country. This option is also correct, and the direct impact of British rule. The impact was the extreme poverty among its people. Second half of the 19th century witnessed a series of famine, especially in 1965 to 66. Famine engulfed to Orissa, Bihar, Bengal, and affect all parts of the country. Hence, this third statement is correct. Our question is not a direct economic impact. Hence, the answer is none of the above. Who among the following Indian freedom fighters made an attempt to estimate the per capita income of India? A. Gopalakrishna Gokhale, B. Firoz Shah Mehta, C. Surendranath Banerjee, D. Dadabhai Naoroji. The right answer is Dadabhai Naoroji, a freedom fighter, made an attempt to estimate the per capita income of India. The single biggest item of British capital investment in India was option A, railways, Option B, plantation and mines. Option C, banking and insurance. Option D, shipping. The correct answer is option A, railways. The single biggest item of capital establishment of Britain in India was railways. The establishment of a railway mainly because of the transportation of Indian goods and resources and their convenient exports to Britain and for the colonial administration, who considered that British economic policy was disgusting in India. A. B.G. Tilak, B. Dadabhai Naoroji, C. Karl Marx, and D. Adam Smith. The correct answer is C. Karl Marx considered that British economic policy is disgusting in India. The cause of decline of textile industry in 18th century in Bengal was A. High tariff rates on exports to Britain, less import duties on Indian goods, C. Preferential treatment, D. None of the above. The right answer is A. High tariff rates on exports to Britain. British imposed high tariff rates, about 500% tariff on Indian exports, which automatically affected the Indian exports to Britain. Hence, the right answer is answer A. The growing commercialization of agriculture during the British period helped the moneylender come merchants to exploit the cultivator. Consider the following statement regarding the status of cultivators. The first statement, the poor peasants were forced to sell their products just after the harvest and at whatever price they could get, as they had to meet in the time of the demand of the government, the landlord and the moneylender. Statement 2, a large share of the benefit of growing trade in agricultural products was reaped by the merchants, who was very often the village moneylender. Which of the following statement is are correct? Option A, only one, B, only two, C, both 1 and 2, D, neither 1 nor 2. In our first statement is absolutely correct because the growing commercialization helped the moneylender come merchants to exploit the cultivators. Poor peasants forced to sell their product whenever the demand of the government or the moneylender, even though they are the producers of agricultural products. The price of the product fixed by the government. Peasants had no role in this price fixation. The share of the profit completely reaped by the merchants. That is, the merchants were the village moneylender. Hence, the both statements are true. Hence, the answer is both 1 and 2. This also explained in our previous video the economic impacts of British rule. Consider the following statement regarding the stagnation and deterioration of agriculture during the British period. Statement 1, Indian agriculture began to stagnate as a result of overcrowding of agriculture, excessive land revenue demand, growth of landlordism, increasing debtness, and growing impoverishment of cultivators. Statement 2, overcrowding of agriculture and increase in sub-infeudation led to subdivision and fragmentation of land into small holdings, most of which could not maintain their cultivators. Which of the following statement are correct? A, only 1, B, only 2, C, both 1 and 2, D, neither 1 nor 2. The statement 1 is completely correct. The overcrowding of agriculture, excessive land revenue demand, growth of landlordism, increasing debtness, growth of impoverishment of peasantry began to stagnate or even deteriorate Indian agricultural sector. The statement 2, overcrowding of agriculture and increase in sub-infeudation. The sub-infeudation is a practice which peasants holding land only under their landlord, and only the peasants responsible to pay high amount of tax, and most of the peasants could not meet the high amount of land revenue, and the peasants could not maintain their small holdings. Hence, the both statement 1 and 2 are correct. This we already discussed in our previous video, economic impacts of British rule. The correct answer, both 1 and 2, answer is C. Next question. During the colonial period, British capital was mainly invested in option A, infrastructure, option B, industry, and option C, agriculture, option D, services. Agriculture was mainly invested by British during the colonial period. The raw material from agriculture, especially from India, was compulsory for British manufactured goods in the 18th century. Hence, the option C is the right answer. Who said that the exploitative nature of British rule was bleeding India white? A. Tilak, B. Dadabhai Naoroji, C. Hume, D. Annie Besant. The correct answer is B. Dadabhai Naoroji. The word bleeding India white, written by Dadabhai Naoroji in his book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. During their rule, the British persuaded or forced the cultivators in Assam to grow A. Jute, B. Tea, C. Sugarcane, D. Wheat. The correct option is tea. The trade of tea was most profitable to British. That is why they turned to force the cultivators to grow tea. British colonial policy in India proved to ruin for Indian. A. Agriculture, B. Trade, C. Industry, D. Handicrafts. The correct answer is handicraft industry. Destruction of Indian handicraft industries are the main impacts of the British colonial rule and their economic policies. Indian economy transferred completely to colonial economy. Hence, the right answer is handicraft industry. British introduced the railways in India in order to A. Promote heavy industries in India, B. Facilitate British commerce and administrative control, C. More foodstuff in case of famine, and D. Enable Indians to move freely within the country. Option A is absolutely wrong. British established a railway in order to facilitate the smooth transfer of their raw material, especially agricultural raw material for their manufactured goods, and the establishment of a railway not for Indians, only for their administrative control and commerce. Hence, option A, C, D are completely wrong. The right answer is B, to facilitate British commerce and administrative control.